Alright guys, so my GoPro froze up. I don't know how much I lost, but where we left off is we cleaned up the fretboard with the Howard's Butcher Block cleaner and some ultra fine Scotch-Brite pad, and this board was filthy and super dry, and look at it now, dude. I am so glad I bought this guitar. It is so beautiful. So we're getting ready to take care of the fret sprout here. It's a little easier on this one because the body joint is all the way down here. Oh, and this guitar has 24 frets. It's hard to find a good 24 fret SG. So I figured out where I could go flat and then it hits the body, and then I taped that off so that I know once I get to the tape, stop. And I taped it off anyway, just in case I went a little too far and hit the body. I wouldn't scratch or dent the body. So that's my place to stop. So the way I'm going to do this, and I started, but this neck is not straight enough to do this with. I started using my sanding beam, which is for fret leveling, and it just wasn't working. It was hitting some areas and not others, and then I was taking parts in. I don't need to do that. This does not need to be a perfectly straight plane. So this is not a good method. So I got a piece of scrap ebony. Anything small and straight will work as long as it hits, at least 2 or 3 frets at a time. So this is perfectly flat. This is really well aged ebony. It's a scrap from Taylor. I just put some 400 on it, and I'm holding it straight up and down, perfectly straight up and down. If you've got to lean one way, go in towards the center. Don't dig into your neck. That's going to be awful. So I'm just holding it straight up and down. I'm using both hands, and I'm just letting the sandpaper do its work, and I'm just working my way down very gently. I'm holding it straight up. I'm focusing on maintaining its straightness and making sure both my hands have the same amount of pressure so this thing stays nice and straight. I'm not digging in anywhere. And I'm just making a couple of passes on each one. And then once I get all the way down to my tape line, to my no-go zone, I am going to stop and I'm going to look. And the other thing I'm doing is I'm making sure that this board, I'm only holding it down as far down as the fret sprout, maybe a little bit farther to blend things in a little bit. We'll come back and polish it and make it look really nice later. But all I want to do is get the end of the frets into the finish without going into the finish and removing more material than necessary. One of the things I learned at Taylor is you always want to do the least amount possible. You just want to do just enough. You don't want to remove material unnecessarily. There's no reason to remove a bunch of finish or wood for that matter. So we're just knocking those tangs back just a tiny, tiny bit, and we're already there. That's all it took. So now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, and I'm going to flip the guitar over for that because I liked the way that was working. So we're going to do the same thing. It's a little easier for me on this side, and then I'll start filming again when we get down to where the frets overhang the body. Okay, a couple things I left out is if you're doing this at home, I would definitely recommend taping up along the edge of the fretboard on the bottom here. If you tilt too much this way, you're going to dig right in your neck and sand it, especially at the heel where it goes straight down. I mean, up here, the neck's curving in, so you'd have to be pretty extreme, but up by the heel, it wouldn't take much of going this way, because on the fulcrum point here, it's more extreme down here to dig into that heel and really take some material off. And the way I'm checking to feel if it's done, I'm not doing it from up top, I'm doing it down low, and I'm not even touching the crown, the top of the fret. I'm only touching the tang with my thumb to check, to see how level it is. And there's no reason not to take your time and make it absolutely perfect. You've got this thing apart, you've got all the materials here, you're going to be playing this thing for years most likely, or if you're doing it for a customer, they're going to be playing it for years. So take the time to make sure that every single fret end is perfect. Like this one's protruding just a little bit. Was this one right? Yeah. So I'm just going to take my my sanding block and just get a little bit more. And then I'm going to stop. And I'm going to check. And there we go. That's all it took. Barely anything. Yep. All right. These are all good. So we're ready to start down here. So what we're going to do is remove this piece of tape. That was our block to not go too far, and I'm going to add another one right here because I do not want to get into the body wood at all. This body wood is awesome. This is a really nice piece of bodywood too. This thing is so resonant, and You know, my Les Paul is my favorite guitar I've ever had, but this thing is really giving it a run for its money. And I've had a lot of guitars, man, so like, that's a big deal for me to say that this one's special. But I'm really, really falling in love with this thing. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before, except I'm going to make sure that I don't go as low, and I'm going to be more careful. I mean, really, you're never going to feel the sprout down here, but I'll be able to see it, and I'll know. So it's got to be right, man. It's got to be right. And actually, I'm going to put a fresh piece of paper on here so it's a little easier. There's a lot of ways to do this. You could just fold it, or you could cut it with a razor blade. I'm short on blades right now, so I'm just going to fold it a couple times and not do this. Don't stick it to itself because it loses its stiction. And if it's hanging down, below whatever block you're using, it's going to be really easy for it to dig into anything. So you can just push it in, and then sometimes it'll just break off. Other times it'll just wear off all the sandpaper. I think that's going to be okay because we're taped off. So I'm just going to hit these guys, get everything just right. That's it. I'm just going to make a few passes, and then for these I'm going to check with my pinky because that's the only thing I can get in there. And then that's pretty much it for that. So let me finish this up and make sure this is just right, and then we'll get started on the fret ends and softening these up. And I've done this like thousands of times at Taylor. I'm really good at it. I don't like to boast about things, but this I know what I've done, and I'm proud of it. So I guess I don't mind so much. Couple more things to watch out for when you're doing this. Hold your thumbs over like this, and especially if you're applying too much pressure, sometimes it might want to pop off a little bit, and if it does that, it might hit the frets and scratch them real bad. And that's why I'm holding my thumb like this and being very light pressure. Just let the sandpaper do its thing. You don't need to force it. You don't need to push in or use much pressure at all. You're just holding it steady. And another thing, I'm not focusing on just one area. I focus on an area a little bit, and then I spread it out. Focus on an area a little bit, spread it out. Spread everything out. Make it even. That's a common theme with all this guitar stuff. Another thing is once you get up here, if you start focusing too much on this one, for instance, the first fret, you might go up here and hit the headstock and dent it or crack the finish or scratch it or something awful. The thing I was saying earlier about doing just enough and not doing too much is every single thing you do introduces the possibility of something going wrong and turning something very simple into a total refinish or a neck reset, or who knows. You could do catastrophic damage at all times, basically. So be very careful, take your time, relax, enjoy it, meditate, get in the moment, chill out, and enjoy the ride. And when you get done, you're going to have something totally badass to show for it. So we're all done here with the fret sprout. The thing feels great. I went over every single fret and felt it, and they all feel amazing. This is well worth the effort. I probably got 15 minutes in, not too bad. So let's get started on the fret ends, because these are still very sharp, though they feel a lot better now, just with the sprout being removed. So let's get to it. All right, tools we're going to need for this. There are a lot of different files on the market you can use. 3-corner file with these ends ground down is what I use and what I like. I like a pointy tip. I'll show you that in a second. I like the smaller size, a little more agile, and nice and sharp. Keep it clean. Brush it off every time you use it. Keep it clean. Get a file card. I don't know where mine went. Next thing we're going to need is a hard block with 400. Most likely we're going to look at our fret ends. Do they look smooth, or do they have a bunch of scratches in them? If they have any scratches in them, just hit them with a hard block with 400 at the exact same angle that they're already at. You got to be careful with this, because if you go in too much, you're going to change the angle on your bevel. Maybe you want that. Maybe they're too straight up and down for you. You want them to come in. For me, I'm going to cut a new nut on this and get a new bridge with new saddles so I can widen the string spacing out, because that's what I like. And these are at a pretty extreme, like almost straight up and down. They don't come in a whole lot, and I like that. So I'm going to follow the same angle exactly, and I'm going to go real slow and just hit them real lightly. Take all those scratches out. That's probably all it'll take. Some of you might have some really deep scratches in here from when they put the original angle in there. If that's the case, you'll have to do a little more. And then on the other side of this tool, and you could use just a soft block, anything soft that can conform a little bit. I taped a piece of foam onto this fretboard chunk, and I'm going to put a little 400 on that for the end after we do the filing. So yeah, like I said, I like the pointy 3-corner file. The reason for that is when they finish this thing, the frets in the fretboard are already on and they tape it off, but a lot of times finish will get in the corner right here, right next to the fret, or there can be a little burr and I can feel there's something in there and I want to poke that out because I want to get all the way in there with my file when I go to round it over. So I'm going to clean all that out. You can also use a razor blade if you get like, I have a Fret Guru file that's rounded on the ends, and you know, if I were to use that, I don't really like it. It's too fine. It takes too much work to get done. But for new people, it's safer. So that might be a good one if you're just starting out doing this, actually. For that one, I would take a razor blade. But there's all kinds of crap that can get in these corners, and you want to get it out. So that's what I'm doing here. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll come back, and I'll get into depth about how we actually, you know, round over the edge and make it nice and smooth and playable. So let's do it. Also, when I'm doing this, I'm making sure that, you know, there's 3 sides on this. I'm making sure that how do I explain this? So there's a triangle shape between the fret and the fretboard, right? So I want one of the points, I want the file to match that, basically. It's really hard to explain this. So if this is the fret and this is the fretboard, we've got a little corner right here. My file is a triangle, so whoop, this is the file. I want one of the tips of that triangle to go inside of there to really clean it out and get it out. And take your time with this. I've done this a lot, so I can go pretty quick. But if you do start going quick, remember, you're going to scratch your fretboard if you drag on it, so don't drag on your fretboard because then you're going to have to get that out. And there's all kinds of crap coming out of here. So don't scratch it. I've done that, and you'll see that in a lot of factory guitars, little scratches going all across. I've done my fair share of that. So that's the tip for now. Now for the 1 second, I'm almost done. Oop, we got a little bit in there. If you get a good burr in there, don't try to don't shank it, man. You're not in prison, man. Just keep light force. In fact, use 2 fingers. Pop, pop, pop. And just poke it out. It'll eventually come out. Just keep poking on it. You don't need to use a lot of force. There's no force necessary here with this file. This is a gentle tool. So, for the crowning part, I'll be right back. Okay, I was going to try to draw this out, but I don't know how. For this part, there's lots of different ways to do this and make the ends look and feel. I'm going to show you the way we did it at Taylor, which leaves a nice factory smooth look. And, you know, even with that, everybody's got a little bit of a different technique. But basically, you've got this hard edge on the end of the fret, and you want to equally take away material from both angles. So you don't want to just take away from this one, because then you still have a hard angle. You want to take away from both and round the corner. So you're rounding the corner, you're hitting both edges equally. And the way you can control that is with the angle of your file. So let me get you on straight here. So when you're coming at it straight, your angle this way changes which side of the fret you're hitting. You can hit the outside edge, or you can hit the, you know, this edge. So you've got to maintain this angle. I like to do it at about a 45, about right here. And then you've got this angle to consider. You know, you could be all the way out here, and then you're hitting mostly the fret end, or you can be all the way in here, and then you're mainly hitting this angle. So be in the middle, and then come up. That's the way I learned, is get this angle right first, and then get this one. And then we're pushing and we're rolling at the same time. Rolling. And it's hard to do this slow. So we're rolling up to the very center point, the very tippy top of the crown of the fret. Rolling. And you might be inclined to go too far and then dig into the side of your fretboard, and that's most likely going to happen to you. And that's going to be okay as long as you're being gentle with this. You don't need to manhandle this and put a lot of power in. It's better to do 2 or 3 light passes than one heavy one, because when you do one heavy one, you can do damage and you can screw things up. And if you screw up your angle, you can't come back from it. And this takes a lot of practice to get perfect and get right. I mean, I did thousands of them and I can still improve. So on these end ones here, this is going to be the hardest part, because I'm going to want to, where's the file go, right? So you got to kind of saw it. You got to saw this thing, and it's easiest to do with 2 hands on that part. These ones, I do one-handed because that's fast. When I was in a factory setting, I had to be fast. I had to get the numbers out. But down here, I'll use 2 hands, and you can do this to begin with too. I would never do it this way, but I'm showing you for the camera. You can put one finger on the tip and roll it over like that. And then, like I said, never do it this way. Always be going away from you, not towards you, because it's hard to control this way. It's really hard to control your pressure and just the whole thing. But you can use your finger on there and roll it over. Stu Mac has some good videos. Dan Earlywine shows a lot of different techniques. There's many, many, many different ways to do this. So what I'm going to do now is drop this pickup down so I got a little more room. You might even want to just remove the pickup. But I'm just going to drop it down. I'll be okay. And then I'm going to use some piece of cardboard. You can use whatever, a piece of plastic, anything to guard the wood. Just in case you slip, man. Mistakes happen. Like, guard your stuff. You've got a beautiful instrument, I'm sure. Obviously it's worthy of doing this kind of work too. So we're going to cover it and make sure that we do not damage it. Where'd my other piece go? Oh, right here. Oh, by the way, if you guys don't drink Liquid Death, you should, man. This stuff is great. It's amazing water. Okay, so that's... We're going to get another one on there. I really need to get like a big piece of leather or something. And when you're taking the tape off, be slow. Be real nice and gentle and slow with it. You can remove finish even with this painter's tape, which is really low tack. Doesn't leave a residue, and it's not that strong, but it's strong enough kind of deal. Especially like on the neck. So instead of just ripping it off, especially like at where the fretboard meets the neck, I'll go away from it and I'll go slow. And I see how I've got it. Let me get a piece on top. This is a little easier. So I'm not going to just rip it off. I'm going to slowly peel it like this, kind of sideways against the grain. I'm not going straight with the grain. I'm not going against it. I'm kind of going sideways. You got to look at the grain of the wood and kind of know where you're at on the instrument. But that's, I could probably get into depth on that in another video. So that's the basics of it. I'm going to do it. Down on the ends here, I like to do it one at a time. And all I'm doing is taking off that hard edge. I'm not trying to reshape these or get it all round and crazy looking or anything. I'm just reshaping it. And I'm maintaining the exact same angles on each one. And also, when I start the file, because this is a straight shape, I'm getting that bottom edge all the way to the bottom. I'm making sure that this touches the very bottom of the fret, because you'll feel that. You don't want to start this thing straight up and down because you're not going to touch this very little bottom part. You want to make sure that the tooth part of the file touches everything. I mean, really get in there and round over the whole thing. And then check. Like down on these bottom ones especially, I'll do a couple of them and I'll check. How does that feel? And these feel great. So much better than they did before. So I'm going to keep going. This is, especially when you're starting out, take your time with this, man. I didn't have that luxury At Taylor, I got thrown into the fire, and it was tough for a while, but I certainly got it down now. So once I get up to these other ones, I'm not going to go back and forth. I'm going to go full speed. And once I get it locked in, I get the angle of the file as far as how it's twisted right. It's in the corner. And then I check this angle, and then I check this angle. And you can kind of feel, you know, where your starting point is. And I'll go all the way down, and then I'll move over to this side, and I'm gonna block the camera. I gotta leave this thing. No, I don't. Screw it. It'll be fine. I'm gonna switch my body position and get on this side. And I'm gonna walk with it. And I'm gonna stop because I got all this crap down here hitting me in the leg. I'm gonna reposition, and there's no reason to race with this, man. Like, you know what I mean? Make love to this thing. It's not a porno. You know what I mean? See, that's not enough. These are good, because these need another pass, because I'm going light. I'm not trying to race this thing. There we go. This might be the last pass. Okay, so now I'm stopping to check. I'm going to do it one more time. This file's getting a little dull. It used to be really sharp. Now it's pretty dull. So I'm going to do the same thing on both sides. I don't think I have much left to say about that. If I do, one thing I want to clarify real quick that I think I misspoke about is the angle, the way the thing is twisted when it goes in. If you're too far in, like when you were poking out, you wanted this bottom piece, you wanted to match the angle with the file. But when you're filing the top ends, you want the top side flat. Because if you dig in too much, then your fret ends are going to look like shit, and there's no way to go back from that besides refretting. As far as the way it looks, it'll still function, but it just won't look very well. And also, I think I've been playing with my technique a little bit, and I think the finger on the file is going to be a lot more accurate. It's a little slower than the way I was doing, but I think it's going to be a lot more accurate. And also, while you're doing this, you want to get down and look. You can see where you filed, and you can see the shape. You want to make sure it's even on both sides. I had a tendency, going one direction, I would have my file one way. Going the other way, I had it the other way. So they were a little lopsided, and it just didn't look perfect. So take your time and do light strokes and look at what you're doing. I mean, really stop and just look at, you know, are you removing the same amount of material on the top as you are the bottom? Do both sides look equal? Does everything look equal and nice? And as far as the actual filing technique, try this out instead. I think this will work better for you than one hand, you know? So hold one finger on the tip and just lightly roll it over. Can you see that? So I got one finger on the tip and I'm just lightly rolling it over, pushing it over, and then I stop before I get all the way over and dig into the board. So maybe I can move this over a little bit. You can get a little better look at this. So one finger on the tip. And when you're going light like this, you can experiment. You know, you can see what works for you. Can you guys see that? This is really, really difficult to do like this. So I'm making sure I get all the way up to the very tippy top. Really rounding this guy over and making it smooth. And besides just looking, you want to feel it. Does that, I mean, it's going to be a little bit sharp, and we're going to sand it in a second, and that's going to take the final edge off. But how does it feel? Does it feel even? Does it feel comfortable to you? Does it feel okay? So let me take one more pass real quick and get this exactly how I want it, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, next step here is the 400 on the soft block, and this, again, this is almost no pressure. What this is going to do is the soft block is going to conform around the frets a little bit and get rid of all the file marks we just made, and clean up the ends a little bit and round everything over just a little bit more. And I'm going to follow exactly the same angle as the fret ends. And if I know I'm going to have a ton of real estate as far as like how close in the strings are, and I want to bring the fret ends in just a little bit more and make them a little bit more rounded, the last pass I'll bring it in just a little bit to really lighten up those fret edges and really make them soft. Totally depends on the guitar. So this is just no pressure at all, and I'm following the exact same angle. And then once I get up to the body joint, I'm going to stop and do that separately, because that's going to be a really gentle thing. Hopefully someday I'll have a better camera and be able to get like up close shots. I can't do it with the GoPro, I'm sorry. Yeah, maybe this channel will take off and I'll get like a badass camera and get like, I guess I already am getting super in depth, but I can get like super close-ups of stuff like this too. That'd be rad. I had a good DSLR, but I sold it thinking I wasn't gonna do YouTube anymore. And then this last pass, I'm just gonna break that edge. There we go. That's enough. And then I'm just gonna hit down here a little bit by hand, real gentle. Feel it? It's okay if it still feels just a little tiny bit sharp, because we've got a couple more things to do. So we're pretty much done with that. Now we're on to the micro mesh. This video I'm sure is getting hella long now, so I'm going to speed it up. And so you can buy these kits. You can get them 2 different sizes. I think the small one is going to be fine for now. And it goes from, what is it, 1,500? Yeah, 1,500 to 12,000, which is crazy. We're going to get an insane polish with this. And with this, we're going to try not to hit the fretboard. We're just going to hit the frets. But first, we're going to hit the fret ends. The fret ends with the 1,500. We're going to make this thing gleam, dude. This thing's going to take down planes. It's a lot easier when you can go on both sides, but I would flip this guitar around if I was you. I feel confident enough to do this, but it's a little sketchy doing it from this side. Cool. And then just work your way up. And I'm going to do just the ends. And then, once the ends are done and I've gone through all the grits, I'm going to do just the fret tops. And I'll probably hold it this way. And I'll just go the directions that the strings bend and cover as many as possible. Make a few light passes. No pressure. Just let the paper do its work. And at the end, I'll rinse these off in the sink and I'll be done. So I think that's pretty much it. At the end, I'm going to hydrate and clean this fretboard one more time. First, I'm going to brush all the crap off with my little paintbrush and then string it up and fucking jam, dude. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like these super in-depth videos, let me know, and I will make more of them because this is pretty fun for me. Later, guys. Oh, boner material. Let's round over these fretboard edges a little bit with this micro mesh. I'm just gonna, after I'm done with the fret ends, I'm just gonna roll it around my finger and just give it a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit on the fret edge. This is another 45-degree angle. And to keep it natural looking, I'm not gonna go where it overhangs the body because that would look weird. This is to make it look natural too. All it's doing is just breaking that edge a little bit. And it's also rounding over the fret edges just a little bit more. So, yeah, man. Thanks for watching, guys. Later.